Come on, everybody. Here we go. Off to Neverland.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome to Season 5 of Every Version Ever. I can't believe we've hit 5 years this year. That just seems wild to me. To kick things off this year, we're starting with Peter Pan. And obviously, starting out with Peter Pan, you kind of have to start with Disney. And because we're starting with Disney, for the next couple of months, we're not just talking about the films. We've got so much Disney spin-off media to cover as well. From the sequel to the remake to a couple of thinly connected spin-off series, film and TV, there's so much Disney Peter Pan material, and we're going to cover it all. So today, we're starting things off with arguably the most famous version of all, Walt Disney's 1953 adaptation of Peter Pan starring Bobby Driscoll and Catherine Beaumont. Joining me for this one, as well as a bunch of the episodes following, is Stanford Clark. I knew from listening to the podcast he hosts with Rachel Wagner, the Talking Disney podcast, that Peter Pan was Stanford's favorite Disney film growing up, so he was always my first choice to join me for this series. This was one of your favorites as a kid, right?
Yes. And it still is.
I think I remember watching this maybe once or twice as a kid, but it wasn't one we had, and it wasn't one we borrowed from the library multiple times. So this was, the songs, obviously, I had, because we had Disney albums that I listened to death, so I was far more familiar with the music than I was with the story. Mm-hmm. So it was almost fresh going in this time for this podcast, but I did recognize a bunch of things as I went. So how old were you when you first watched it?
So I'm trying to remember. I think I was trying to figure that out because I was probably under the age of 5 or 6. But, I'm an old man. Let's just be truthful. but I saw it in the theater in a re-release.
I was going to say, you're not quite old enough to have seen it in the theater when it was made, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't either. But maybe the second re-release. I looked at someone out on Wikipedia, put the dates of when they did a theatrical re-release. It seemed to me, if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan, that Disney was on every 7 years they would re-release.
I remember that from probably back when I was a teenager. There was something people talk about 7-year.
Yeah. They re-released the animated
I think they were talking about DVDs, but I think that came from theatrical too.
Yeah. And then I had a golden book of the Disney, Peter Pan, as well as one of those records. I had a ton of these records, Jonathan. And I think that, I don't know if they make anything similar anymore that it would be somewhere on streaming, but it was a storybook, and you'd hear the Tinkerbell chimes, and that's when you turn the page. But it had a narrator, and it would read exactly what was in the book. But who knows how many thousands of times? I listened to that. So definitely saw it in the theater, but it was the golden book and that little story, that read along storybook, that wow, I just loved it.
Yeah, we had we didn't have this, but at least I don't think we did. We had, when I was a kid, we had a record player, and I remember, I think it was from a garage sale or something. There was a pile of really old, falling apart records.
Yeah,
the cases were falling apart. Mm-hmm. So we had some of that, probably from the same series that you had, but much older when I had it. And also tapes. I would borrow the tapes from the library.
Okay.
I don't remember if there was one for Peter Pan, but I remember Fox and the Hound, and even the animated segment of Song of the South. I remember listening to that as a book on tape.
Yeah.
Because I was familiar a little bit with the animated portion, but I'd have never seen the movie when I did Song of the South for the podcast. So I'm pretty sure it was from a book on tape, probably from that same series, because I remember the chimes.
Yeah, I think we also had it on so at least some of the songs on an LP, because we had some Disney big albums.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite ride at Disneyland. That started as I was a young child. I went to Disneyland, I believe, for the first time when I was 5. And although I grew up in Salt Lake City, my dad had a lot of business in Southern California, and so he'd often just take the family. And one of the things we do is we'd go to Disneyland, and
Mm-hmm.
that Peter Pan ride. Not only do they play the background music from the movie in the queue, then of course the songs are included within the attraction, and it's a super short ride. It's like 2.5 minutes, but they're like they're like my favorite 2.5 minutes at Disneyland. I love it so much. But again, I think that was also another thing, because it really took, it just really took, because when I was a kid, it's just like the perfect amount of adventure. I loved, I love the songs. I love the character designs, and just everything was just about it. Just, it's just one of those things that is so appealing, and it always has been. So in a way, it's kind of indescribable, because it's just always been there. It seems like.
Yeah, watching it this time, I found myself kind of conflicted because on the one hand, it was very enjoyable, but on the other hand, I kind of only really liked Wendy and maybe her brothers a little bit. everybody else was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Although I did think Tinkerbell's attitude was hilarious.
Yeah. Tinkerbell's so sassy that it's pretty, it's funny, I think. Yeah, as an adult. And I agree with you. No one's really likable.
Which I wasn't expecting. I don't know why. It's been a while since I've seen any version of Peter Pan, so I didn't remember him being so full of himself.
Yeah. See, yeah, he's so arrogant. And but hey, he can fly. That I think that flying sequence over London initially, or that whole "You Can Fly" song and sequence is my favorite. And anytime that there were even scenes of it or clips where it made me happy. I remember seeing it like in the opening of one of the iterations of the Wonderful World of Disney, which we'd watch faithfully in my home when I was growing up on Sunday nights. That there was just like a small clip of Peter Pan and Wendy, John and Michael flying over London, and that always just made me happy too, even though it was just like 3 seconds or something. Still, I just loved it.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
I can't remember. I mean, again, I'm sure someone's got it documented on the internet when this came out on home video. But that was a happy day. I remember it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I believe, I own a copy of Peter Pan.
Yeah, I suppose like I've never been, at least that I can remember, in a world where you couldn't just own the movies you liked. So that would have been a very cool development to be able to buy a movie.
It was a happy thing. Absolutely.
Well, I suppose we can talk about the cast. We have Bobby Driscoll as Peter Pan.
Yeah, Disney, kind of a Disney regular in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he did a lot. Like I've been surprised going through the canon how many times he's shown up.
Yeah,
I remembered him in a couple things, but he was like right for a while. He was in like every other movie.
Yeah. Oh, he's in a ton of stuff. I mean, the Song of the South, right?
Yeah. So Dear to My Heart, Treasure Island. He was also in, I can't remember which one it was, the Pecos Bill segment of one of the package films. I get those mixed up, whether it's Make Mine Music or Melody Time.
It's Melody Time.
Okay.
I think I'm maybe getting him confused with another actor. But anyway, is he pervasive? Like, Walt Disney used him a lot, not wanting it to be such a downer, but I think he had a pretty tragic life. Yeah. Which was sad.
Well, wasn't this his last one?
I'm looking at his IMDb page, and he looks like he did quite a bit of TV work.
Well, I mean, his last for Disney.
Oh, for Disney. I believe, it looked like Peter Pan was his last for Disney. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought I really liked his performance in Peter Pan. Yeah,
he was great.
Yeah.
And apparently he was not actually the first choice, though. They were actually going to go with somebody who'd done the stage version, Mary Martin, because it's always been like a tradition that Peter Pan is played by a female. And he wanted Mary Martin first. apparently.
Have you ever seen that Mary Martin version of Peter Pan? That's one. We had that album too because I believe it was on Broadway, or they might have done an original production and they put it for TV, like a live, kind of like the way what NBC does these days, where they'll do a live show. I know they've done Grease and Hairspray and Jesus Christ Superstar and some others, but we had that album as well, and it's got just terrific music. It's by Julie Stein. Mary Martin's so good in it, and the guy who played Captain Hook is very memorable. I don't remember, but anyway, so that I think maybe could have influenced my love of the story too, because I can't remember when I saw that TV production for the first time, but I remember the album. That's interesting that Disney was going to hire Mary Martin.
Apparently, that was his first choice.
She's very good in that stage production.
Yeah, I'm glad they ultimately went with Bobby Driscoll.
Me too. I think that was a better choice.
He just has a perfect voice for this.
Yeah.
Then we have Catherine Beaumont as Wendy.
Yeah. And again, she's a bit of a regular in her own way, right? With Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, she didn't do quite as much as Bobby Driscoll did, but she's a Disney staple. Even with just the two big roles that she had, she's iconic. Exactly.
Very memorable. And I think perfect. She just aces it.
And then as Captain Hook was Hans Conried.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently, this is another one where Disney didn't get his first choice. Apparently, the role was first offered to Cary Grant.
Wow. That would have been interesting. I sure think Hans Conried was perfect.
Yes. No, he was
too.
Great.
Yeah.
And of course, he also did George Darling, because there's another tradition with the stage plays to have Hook and the father be played by the same.
Yeah, be the same actor. I love that about this. That they kept that tradition in the Disney animated one too. Now, Bill Thompson, who plays Mr. Smee, I love his voice as well. I think he did a few things for Disney too. I'm just again looking at the
main one I know him from is the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
He probably did other things, but like his voice, when I hear it, I hear the White Rabbit.
You hear the White Rabbit. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, he played Jock, the bull terrier in Lady and the Tramp, and also was King Hubert in Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
Which, versatile.
A different cadence.
Yes. But I sure love his performance as Mr. Smee too. That's just one of those. There was a part of that album, there that read along, or maybe it was the LP again. I can't remember, but as a child, but they had actual like audio clips from the movie that would be like 3 minutes long. They have one of those. One of them was the first scene where we meet Captain Hook and Mr. Smee in Neverland, and just hearing both of their voices, just wow, so great.
Most of the other main characters are voiced by people I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
I don't know if you would. Yeah, we have Heather Angel as Mary Darling, Paul Collins as John Darling, Tommy Lusk as Michael Darling. But with him, I looked him up. His only other role was Young Pansy in Alice in Wonderland. I think he was the flower that went, I think she's pretty.
I meant to look, but I wonder if do you think he could be like the son of Hamilton Lusk?
I'm not sure.
I think Hamilton was an animator and a director at Disney. It was Disney Animation. But anyway. It's just
he is. Yep, it was his son.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered about,
So a little nepotism in there.
Yeah, some nepotism going on.
But he has a good voice, so
he's adorable. It's just, he's so cute. I like John and Michael. I think my favorite little Michael, I guess, Tommy Lusk is during the You Can Fly song, and in the film, Michael grabs Tinkerbell and shakes pixie dust on Nana the dog. And then he says, "Come on, Nana."
That was one of the things that I remembered the most. I think that audio was still on the soundtrack, because
Uh-huh.
it was one of the things that just was completely stuck in my head, and it's probably because I listened to the music more than I watched the movie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's probably par for the course with most Disney films. I listen to the music a lot more than I watch the
Are
movies.
they? I noticed in again just off of IMDb, and I didn't know that this, and maybe he's listed in the credits, but Mel Blanc is the voice of Nana, but I know he's uncredited.
Hmm. I didn't catch that one, so that's
Well, and
interesting.
how much does Nana like bark? Or I guess she barks
Not a
some.
whole lot,
It's
but
not a lot.
she's not a main character because she's gone after they leave. She's not in the rest
Right.
of it,
Yeah,
so
you never see
until
her
the
back,
end.
but June Foray also.
Yeah. And Candy Candido as the chief.
Yes.
He has a great voice.
He's got such a distinctive voice. Yeah.
And then the other person that really stood out, or people, I don't know them except for, I guess, one of them, the Mellow Men.
Yeah.
They were the chorus for both the pirates and the Indians.
Hmm.
And I guess Thurl Ravenscroft was part of them, but I didn't realize that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Or maybe if I did, I forgot. See, I love that. I love those vocal
Hmm.
ensembles too in the film,
Yeah.
starting with the opening credits. I love,
Yeah.
that group
Yeah.
that sings the second star to the right.
Yeah. That's one of the iconic Disney songs now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can just get into the movie. I'm curious to know what you make of the statement, all this has happened before and it will all happen again. How do you interpret that?
So, I interpret it as, you know, Peter Pan is this fantasy figure that happens to, that a lot of child or children experience. And
Okay.
I think that based on the end of the movie, how Mr. Darling is looking at the ship, the cloud, the cloud formation that looks like the ship, and he's saying, I think this, I recognize that from long ago when I was young,
Hmm.
and so I just interpret it as it's this ongoing fantasy that's a happy thing, for kids, and it happened to Mr. Darling. He just had forgotten. He was so busy being an adult, that he had forgotten about some of the joys of imagination and childhood.
Okay.
That's the the Stanford interpretation. How do you see it?
Well, that I feel like that was one option. The other option is that, like, I don't know how literally the statement should be taken. Like, did everything happen to Wendy exactly the same way as it happened for everyone else? Like, did the same events play out? Or did she just have her own unique adventure? She was just taken away to Neverland like other kids in the past. Because I would prefer it to be that. I don't want I don't want to think about the adventure repeating, but that was the first thing that popped into my head was like, wait, does this mean that this is just like a repeat of something this exact scenario happened to another kid before?
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I like that. I like that.
I guess I would prefer them to each get their own unique adventure.
Right, their own unique time with Peter Pan and Neverland, and whatever other characters they come across. Right.
Hmm. And I'm also wondering, like in our world, of course, we all know who Peter Pan is because of this story, but I'm wondering, is the fact like everybody knows who Peter Pan is he just do they know about him because he just visits lots of kids, or is he just sort of like folklore in their world?
You know, Another fine question that you pose. Have to ponder that. I don't know. My first reaction is folklore, because it's just all through the stories.
Hmm.
At least that's how it's portrayed, in this film.
Hmm.
But I like that idea.
Well, after the opening narration, we're introduced to the family, and like I don't care for Mr. Darling as a character, but I did think it was kind of hilarious that he is introduced as a practical man, And then he's screaming at his wife that if he can't find his cufflinks, we're not going to the party. And if we don't go to the party, I can never show my face in the office again.
I know. That's quite the dramatic. One of the things that I love about that opening sequence is its use of shadows, because that's such an important part initially of how we meet Peter Pan, although the shadow never comes up again, after Wendy sews it back on. But I just love that, how I thought it was just a very clever narrative device and just beautiful art. How they're Mr. and Mr. Darling are coming in and out of shadows. They're getting ready for their night out.
Yeah. I never really thought about that in connection to the shadow as the character.
Yeah.
But it is interesting.
Yeah. Don't know if it was, a precursor or what necessarily what they were thinking. It just seems like it's probably related somehow. But again, I don't, of course, know specifically what.
Yeah. Then you have a scene with John and Michael playing pirates and Nana tidying the nursery.
Yes.
And I love how Nana looks shocked and offended when John calls Michael an insolent pup.
I think Nana is just one of the best characters.
She's great, yeah.
I just think, what a great dog. She's tidying up, she's putting the blocks all back together, so she's pouring in their medicine or whatever they have to.
Yeah.
She's great.
And they've also turned one of George's shirts into a treasure map.
Yes.
Which he is furious about.
He's so ticked.
And you meet Wendy in this scene too. She's the one who has told them these stories that they're acting out. And because of everything that's happening, the dad is just furious at everything, and he decides to kick Wendy out of the nursery.
Yeah, she's gotta grow up, according to Mr. Darling.
Yes. And in his fury, he trips around the nursery, falling all over the room, trampling Nana, and everyone runs to her, leaving him even more furious.
And poor Nana.
And he decides that Nana needs to live outside now, and everyone is upset. And the mother, to me, she shouldn't defend him, but she tells them not to judge their father too harshly. After all, he loves you very much. Like, well, he didn't show it very much in this scene.
Yeah, say it's kind of tough love.
But I also loved Michael in this. He pulls out the missing cufflinks. Mother, buried treasure. I was like, that is such a perfect little kid thing to do.
Yeah. It's so well animated, just his little face, and now he puts his hand out. That's really cute. I also love how that scene, it's introducing us to all the characters, and you just said not so much that any of them are particularly likable, but I thought it was really a compact or a good way to introduce the family.
Yeah,
and
it is. I
think it just moves itself along briskly and just does a fine job. Again, just the Disney story and animation teams at their best.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Yeah,
it really gives you a feel for who the characters are.
Yeah. And while the dad is threatening, I never feel like Mr. Darling is. I mean, it's too bad, that Wendy gets banished and Nana has to go outside. But when Wendy gets, not necessarily banished, but she's going to get moved out of the nursery. But it seems like Mr. Darling is. He never scared me, I guess I should say. He seemed like a very, definite father figure. But Captain Hook, on the other hand, I think is a little bit scary just because he's so unhinged, But
yeah. Unhinged is a good descriptor for him.
Yeah.
So the mother is putting them all to bed, and Wendy tells her mother that she has Peter Pan's shadow because he'd apparently left it behind. This is where this is a different time, because at this point the parents just leave. The kids are in bed and they leave the house.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little different.
Yeah.
I mean, with Wendy, I mean, with Nana outside, and Wendy, I guess her last night in the nursery. Anyway, yeah, I'm with you. Different, different time.
And as they're leaving, Mary tries to tell George about the shadow, but he just says that she's as bad as they are. Says no wonder Wendy gets all these idiotic ideas. And then the camera pans up to reveal that Peter Pan is watching them leave.
Yeah. Again, a really great thing is they're walking off to the party and then just immediately pans up and Peter Pan's on the on the roof.
Yeah.
And I love that opening shot of Peter Pan, how he's got kind of those raccoon eyes. And I don't know necessarily what that was. I mean, almost like as if it were a mask, but it's still, I think it's cool. I think that animation's cool.
I never thought about it as raccoon eyes, but now that you say that, it is a good descriptor for that scene.
Yeah.
You also have the little flute noise.
Oh yeah,
that kind of signals
pan,
him.
right? The pipes
pan flute,
or whatever.
Yeah,
the pan flute. Thank you. Yes,
which is the perfect instrument to give him, since that is his name.
Exactly, that's his name.
And Peter Pan is there with Tinkerbell looking for his shadow, and he tells her to look in its den for the shadow, the doghouse. And it's not there, but she eventually finds it in a drawer. And after getting distracted by her own reflection, and then she is accidentally trapped there as Peter Pan is trying to catch the shadow.
I love Tinkerbell's arrogance, or just her vanity is so great. And then, because she's basically just vain and jealous, but then she gets a chance to be heroic. But I think that's fun, that she doesn't need to be just some perfect character that we love because she's so virtuous or whatever, We love her because she's just so sassy.
It'll be interesting to see her characterization in her standalone movies, because I haven't watched any of them myself. I think Katie and I are going to do either one podcast or like a series of podcasts on those, depending on what she wants to do, because Katie grew up with them, because she's even younger than I am, so she was like the perfect age when they came out.
Oh yeah, so and it'll be great to get her perspective on them too.
Yeah, I'm just curious on how different Tinkerbell is, because from what I've seen, she doesn't seem like she would be the same sassy, arrogant character here.
She's very different, and I haven't watched all of those. I've watched I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 that I've covered with some of the stuff I've done with Rachel's reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel's patient with me because I don't really care for them. But it's not so much that it's a deviation of, because I feel like her character is very different than how she is portrayed in Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
But still, she's still pretty cute and sassy and spunky, just maybe not as vain or mean
or murderous.
Yeah, murderous. It's true.
So at this point, Wendy wakes up and finds Peter trying to stick his shadow on with soap for some reason.
I was just trying to figure out why. I mean, I guess because he doesn't know. He's just grabbing the first thing he sees or something.
I was thinking I'd question his logic, but I should also question the logic of losing a shadow in the first place.
Shadow. So yeah.
And then Wendy says the shadow has to be sewn back on. And I remember when I watched this as a kid, I thought that was a horrible, painful idea.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. Does sound painful.
So Tinkerbell is stuck in the drawer where Wendy's sewing supplies are, and she ends up getting launched back into a pile of them when Wendy gets her stuff out of there. And I love when she turns red. She looks absolutely vicious in this scene.
She looks so great when she turns red. It's so great because it's fully pantomimed, right?
Yeah.
It's this great animation. I believe it was Mark Davis. Does that sound right? Who was the,
It sounds right, but I'd
Tinkerbell.
I'd have to look it up to be sure.
Yeah. But regardless, Great performance, and that scene in the drawer is terrific.
Hmm. I feel like wasn't there like some behind the scenes footage of like they set up a scene like that with real props for
Yeah,
somebody to.
I seems like I've seen pictures of that where somebody was modeling a Tinkerbell and they had set up like the little, I don't know if it's a jewelry box or whatever. I don't know if they had made the giant scissors, but there was, it seemed like I agree with you. I think and that maybe in a way it was rotoscoped, or they
I
just
don't
had
know
that
that they
reference footage.
rotoscoped her, but I
It's
think
just
that they
reference
used it.
footage.
Yeah. I just looked
Yeah,
it up. It's Margaret Carey.
Margaret Carey. Okay,
She
I
was the
was
live
just
action reference for both
yeah, she was
Tinkerbell
the
and a
live.
mermaid.
Okay.
And actually, June Foray was one of the live action references for the mermaids too.
Oh, all right. And Margaret Carey is still alive, and she shows up at like Disney fan events and stuff and talks about,
That's
uh,
cool.
which is pretty cool. Yeah,
Oh, apparently she also voiced one of the mermaids.
Margaret Carey did.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently she was her latest movie credit was in 2020. She was in a short film. She doesn't do a whole lot, but apparently she did something called Before There Were Rings, and she played Nana.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that is. It's just on her Wikipedia page.
And on her IMDb page, there are scenes. Actually, she does have giant scissors, and
Okay.
like there's a picture of her getting stuck in the keyhole of the drawer.
Yeah, they built a bunch of props for her.
That's very fun to see. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that for a long time.
Oh
They also have
yeah.
one of her being a mermaid, and Bobby Driscoll as Peter Pan.
Oh yeah, these pictures are great. This is what I remembered seeing.
Well, I've heard her at a presentation like with a D23 event or something,
Okay.
and she's very charming. I think the fans really like her a lot just because she's very very approachable, and hello, I mean, what a cool experience she provided
Hmm.
being being the live action reference for Tinkerbell.
It would be really cool if, like, I don't know how much of this, I'm sure some of it still exists, if they would try to put together some sort of not like a, I don't know if production reel is the right word, but like put the movie together, but only with behind the scenes footage and storyboards and stuff, like all of these pictures or whatever footage, and put something together because that would just be really cool to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know there are other movies that they've done that for, where in some cases, and I don't know which ones, they've almost shot the whole movie live action, but like on sound stages with minimal backgrounds, but with props, and then use that as the basis for what they're animating.
Yeah,
Not necessarily rotoscoping, but just
right.
watching the
Just
footage.
having a reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, a live action reference. There's also, I believe that I think Margaret's written at least one book. I think she's referenced in another book. I don't know if it was Mindy Johnson. Somebody wrote a book about Tinkerbell, like kind of the evolution of the Disney character.
Hmm.
And I believe it came out around the same time as maybe the original Tinkerbell direct to video or Disney Toon Studios
Hmm.
film.
Interesting.
Yeah, because again, saw it as at a D23 presentation or something. I don't know how Tinkerbell went from kind of this vain, sassy thing to really kind of like, I mean, again, she's so iconic, particularly I mean, like, with the speaking of the opening of the Wonderful World of Disney TV show. She flies in and waves her wand, smiles, all smiles, and then at Disneyland, they're classically at the nighttime fireworks show. They have someone dressed up as Tinkerbell that there's a wire, and she flies over the castle.
Mm.
That she literally fly from the top of the Matterhorn. They've got this actress, person in a harness,
Hmm.
and then flies from the Matterhorn over the castle and onto this landing post somewhere in Frontierland, if I'm not mistaken, or Fantasyland. Anyway, it was a childhood favorite. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Tinkerbell. They put all these spotlights on her, and
Mhm.
It's super cool. But again, that's just like the Tinkerbell we love rather than this vain,
Well, I
scornful.
think I can't remember where I heard this. It was probably on a podcast somewhere because I listen to so many podcasts, but they were talking about Tinkerbell and the opening of the Wonderful World of Disney, like the original TV series with Walt
Yeah.
Disney. And one of the reasons that she's so popular today is because of her use in that show.
Hmm.
But they only used her in that show because they weren't sure that the show was going to be a hit, and they didn't want to use Mickey or one of the iconic Disney characters just in case the show was going to tank. They didn't want to like associate one of their most favorite characters with a show that could potentially fail. So they were like, well, we've got this newer character that she's not used for a whole lot, but she would make a good mascot, so we'll use her. And then she
Interesting.
eventually, because of that, became an icon.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she's still represented today, even in that new Disney 100 logo that they're putting in front of their films, there's still that stream of pixie dust. I believe is still a representation of Tinkerbell.
Yeah. I think, I don't remember for sure, but I feel like when I was a kid, there was a version of the logo that had her fly in and put the pixie
Yeah.
dust over the castle.
Oh, absolutely. I think that there have been multiple versions of it.
Hmm.
And in the, again, this is before my time, but I've seen it in reruns and, whatnot. And I think some of this is even on Disney Plus now. But when Walt Disney did his Disneyland show, which was in 1954, and it was really introducing America to the theme park.
Hmm.
But the beginning talks about the different lands, Adventureland, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, and Tinkerbell is represented. I just can picture her in like some kind of Native American gear, for Frontierland, and I can't remember what she is in Adventureland, but anyway, she's like the star of the show's opening
Hmm.
credits or
I think
sequence.
that might have been the show that I'm thinking of, like the very first use of her as a
Yeah,
mascot.
yeah.
Anyways, back to the movie.
Yeah, back to the movie. I digress. Sorry to get us so off a track.
No, that's fine. That's what podcasts are for.
That's right.
But this scene was where I first got the inkling that I hadn't remembered Peter Pan correctly, because he was annoying me in this scene. The way he kept shutting Wendy down and telling her girls talk too much, and he just seemed, I don't know, annoying. Like it's not just that he's full of himself, he just seems to not care about her, except for the fact that he likes listening to her tell stories about him.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason that he's there.
Yeah. I mean, Peter Pan is such a narcissist.
He really is.
He really is.
But this is where she tells him that there will be no more stories because she's moving out of the nursery. So he insists that she come back to Neverland with him and be mother to him and the Lost Boys. And of course, she wants to go with him, but she hesitates. And then she kind of talks herself around and then decides that she wants to give him a kiss, which enrages Tinkerbell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She just goes ballistic.
I guess the burst of anger was what she needed, because she grabs the scissors and pries the drawer open.
Yeah, it gets her out of her predicament
so that she can escape and yank Wendy back from Peter Pan.
Yeah.
So Peter starts chasing her, waking up John and Michael, who are of course really excited to see him, because he's like, to him, he would be like the equivalent of somebody today seeing their favorite movie character. Like little kids going to Disneyland and seeing Mickey Mouse or Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, exactly.
I did like, though, how John tried to like retain an air of propriety.
I love how John puts on his top hat, and then takes his umbrella, but he's still like in his nightshirt.
Yes. So Wendy tells them that Peter is taking them to Neverland, which he kind of balks at because he only wanted her. But Wendy insists and he gives in. So they're all going now. And of course, this leads to You Can Fly, which is like, to me, it's like the most iconic thing from the movie. Probably because I listen to the song so much, but The animation in this scene is just great.
It is. It's a perfect scene, and it's just kind of captures, I think, the magic of Disney animation. And yeah, I agree with you. It's the most iconic scene. I think it's the best scene of the movie too.
Yeah,
for sure. It's the one that has the most repeatability factor for
yeah.
me, and also really it's just the basis of the Disneyland ride. Because in the Disneyland ride, spoiler alert for you, but you're in a pirate ship. You're on a little kind of personal pirate ship, but the ride mechanism is above the ship, and so it's as if you're flying over the scenes,
Okay.
and you fly through the Darling Nursery and over, moonlit London, and then fly over Neverland, and it's just pretty much the best. You feel like you're in the movie. You feel like you're in that scene, and I just love how they were able to capture that.
Yeah.
They meaning the ride, those early Disneyland ride designers,
The Imagineers.
the Imagineers.
Another thing that I like about this sequence is the things that are on screen that contribute to the soundtrack. Probably because I listen to it so much, but I like that, like, you have Peter Pan's flute, but also things like the fish chomps.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing that came to mind. The fish chomps. Yeah, I love that too. And the Big Ben chimes. I love that.
Yeah, the scene with them on the clock is great.
Yeah, it's magic. Yeah.
I have another question to see what you think. What is Neverland? Is it supposed to be like another planet or another dimension? Because it's like you have to go through space to get there, but it's like an island, but the island is also surrounded by water. So is outer space water, or is it just some water around the island that turns into space?
That's a really good point. I think subliminally, I feel like it's another dimension.
I think it probably is too.
That takes some time to get there. And it seems to me that when you first are introduced to Neverland, are there stars floating around it in the film? I think
so, because you go into space and then you have kind of, I don't know, hazy, cloudy.
Yeah.
It appears out of somewhere, but yeah, there are stars.
In the Disneyland ride, again, sorry, I just keep repeating it, but I feel like it's a good representation of what we're seeing, on screen. And the Disneyland attraction, there are stars, and it's as if it's floating in space.
Okay.
But there's still, there's water and and whatnot, and then you see the pirate ship and the Mermaid Lagoon. Yeah, but you bring up all these excellent questions.
Sometimes I think about things too much.
No, I like it. It's terrific. I wish I had better answers, because I think sometimes I take some of this stuff for granted, because again, it's just like it's always just been there in my in my life, and so I'm just like, oh yeah, there it is. Just it's just there.
Yeah.
but where is it? And what is it? Again, because I also feel like too that it's because it's the whole thing I feel like is is just imagination and fantasy. So it could just be basically anywhere, but it's still fun that there's some kind of directions on how you'd get there.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows truly where the second star to the right is?
Yeah.
I mean, how many stars are there? But I just love how it's they're the two brightest ones. So I guess whatever the fantasy construct is, it worked in my little childhood brain, and it continues to this day.
I just remembered another thing that I thought probably too long on. You mentioned it earlier before, but like the scene with Michael when he grabs Tinkerbell to sprinkle Nana with pixie dust.
Yeah.
After they left, I was like, how long did Nana have to float at the end of the boat before she came back down?
Like, I hope Nana wasn't there like floating, kind of upside down. for hours. And could Nana really have, the faith and trust that it requires?
I was just thinking that because I didn't think of that at the time, but I literally was just thinking of that.
Yeah.
So after you get to Neverland, you're introduced to the pirates. Of course, you get another iconic song, A Pirate's Life for Me here.
Oh, yeah.
I had forgotten that all of the pirates, they kind of don't really like Captain Hook.
Exactly.
Like, they're all really annoyed with him because he has this vendetta for Peter Pan.
Right, and they want to go to sea.
Yeah. Loot, pillage, slit throats, all the piratey things.
I remember that from my childhood is we wants to go to sea.
And you get Hook obsessing over Peter Pan, deciding that the only way to get to him is to kidnap the Indian chief's daughter, Tiger Lily, because apparently the Indians, like, they go to battle with the Lost Boys, but you find out later that it's more like they're friends and they're playing a game.
It's kind of like they're frenemies and they're just playing a game every day, right?
I didn't think of it in that term. Yeah, frenemies is probably a good phrase for it. But yeah, he's decided that if anybody knows where Peter Pan lives, it's going to be Tiger Lily. So that's his plan. He's going to find her, kidnap her, and force her to tell. And also in this scene, you get something that I'd forgotten, but it's kind of hilarious because there's this guy up in the sails of the ship singing A Pirate's Life for Me.
Yeah.
And he specifically referencing how short a pirate's life is. And Captain Hook shoots him down. And technically, like, on its face, like, he's just committed murder. This shouldn't be hilarious, but the comedic timing in this scene,
it's so great.
Plus the death happening off screen with the falling accordion noise and the splash. Just made it hilarious. I hadn't remembered, like, everything with the pirates, it's almost like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It is.
Like, the pirates are basically just Looney Tunes.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And I think that's one of the reasons also that was so appealing to me as a kid, because the pirates were a bit scary and edgy, but it wasn't like terrifying. It was just more like they provided so much humor.
Yeah.
And also I think their character designs, lend to that. The whole, I think with Looney Tunes, because they're all different shapes and sizes and facial expressions. I mean, they look kind of like classic movie pirates, but still,
But they are closer in design to Looney Tunes than to like a classic Disney character.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I think the character designs are so stylized and really played, I think, for humor.
Yeah, even when they're getting murdered.
Well, and that, and how he's singing the pirate song. I mean, it's like kind of this operatic singer with an accordion.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's so also funny. Hilarious because after he's dead, Smee just kind of scolds Captain Hook for shooting a man in the middle of his cadenza, which is apparently part of a song, which I had never known that. I had to look it up. And on Wikipedia, it says, in music, a cadenza is generically an improvised or written out ornamental passage played or sung by a soloist or soloists, usually in a free rhythmic style and often allowing virtuosic display. Yeah. It says during this time, the accompanist will rest or sustain a note or chord, which is literally what he was doing. So somebody knew music when they wrote that line.
That's a great line. And delivered perfectly by Mr. Smee.
Yes, but I never knew what he was saying because I always thought he was saying that he was shooting him in the middle of his credenza, which is like a display cabinet. And the line never made sense to me when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I didn't get it when I was young either, but then, I learned about cadenzas somehow, with music stuff.
Yeah.
And then it just makes me laugh every time. Well, and again, kind of dark, but also I feel like it was appropriate because, as we said, Captain Hook's unhinged, but Captain Hook is not a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how that demonstrates it. Like, he'll kill you.
Yeah.
He's not like some, villain with a heart of gold or something. You know? He's a bad dude.
Yeah. This scene is also where you find out the backstory of the crocodile, which is how he got his hook. Peter Pan apparently has cut off his hand, thrown it to the crocodile, who loved the taste so much that he now follows Captain Hook
He wants
wherever he goes.
And I love that crocodile so much.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so perfectly animated and just so funny. I mean, the sight gags in this movie, I think, are so tremendous.
This is where it really became apparent that anything but the pirates is basically a Looney Tunes cartoon, because Captain Hook just freaks out at this thing.
Oh yeah.
He climbs Smee like a telephone pole, which is ridiculous considering Smee is like half his height.
Smee, I know, is like 3 feet tall or something.
And I also loved that Smee went and scolded the crocodile. He says, "Shame on you. There'll be no handouts today," which is a hilarious pun. Handouts. I don't even know if they meant that as a pun, but I thought it was hilarious.
But it's a great pun. It's so funny. And again, Mr. Smee's perfect delivery and the perfect animation of Mr. Smee.
But I also thought after this, it was like, why doesn't Captain Hook just shoot the crocodile?
Right. It's like, just take him out with one of these cannons or something. But
it was like it practically served itself up to him, because it crawled up on a rock and it's standing on its hind legs. It's like this is the perfect target.
Yeah. Or somebody stab it or something.
So then you get Smee trying to calm him down by giving him a shave.
Oh my goodness.
Which ends up with him accidentally shaving a bird, thinking that he has accidentally cut off his head.
Cut off his head.
And another indication that this is basically Looney Tunes, because he thinks that he can just find the head and put it back on and it'll be fine.
I know. It's so funny, and they're just so silly.
And then this is interrupted by somebody citing Peter Pan returning with the Darlings.
Yeah.
So they decide to shoot him down with a cannon. And
they shoot up into the clouds.
I like how they could just stand on the clouds, like they're platforms.
Yeah, they're just hanging out like Mary Poppins does, you know. And I like how they can dodge the cannon. You know how they dodge the cannonball.
Yeah, he says that he will draw their fire, and he sends them off with Tinkerbell to get out of there while he's distracting them. But of course,
speaking of murder,
yes, Tinkerbell is still extremely jealous and decides to fly ahead, leave them in the dust, and she goes to the Lost Boys to tell him that there's a terrible Wendy bird coming and they need to shoot it down. And this in this scene, as she's flying, there was this one very brief shot that I thought was really interesting. I don't think I'd ever noticed it before. As she's going into the hideout, it's like she's underneath a pool. Like there's fish above her, and they like look down at her out of the water. Like there's ripples around them. So it's like there's a pool of water floating above them underground. I don't know if you ever noticed that. It's so short. It's just a brief scene.
No, I have noticed that. Again, I think just because this has been in my life so long, I haven't really thought about it other than, well, that's kind of an inventive way to keep yourself hidden. But I mean, it's not like they have some pane of glass.
No, it's not.
It's like some aquarium.
Yeah, because they look down, like there's ripples around them as they're looking out above her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever noticed that before. Like I said, I'd only seen it a couple times when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching the scene. I was like, wait, what did I just see? And I had to rewind it. I was like, she's flying underneath a pond or something, which is a cool visual.
Yeah.
Of course, her plan is foiled. Peter gets there just in time to save Wendy. And I love how she just flies off in a rage, burning red, and like she actually burns through a leaf as she's flying.
Yeah, as she flies, because as we're talking about, I love it when she's bright red, just so mad, and that great expression on her face, and just pure anger.
Uh-huh. I also love Michael's reaction. Are you hurted, Wendy?
I know. Isn't that cute? He's so cute.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of lines, but I think they all land really well.
Yes. And of course, Tinkerbell is her treachery is discovered because the Lost Boys are all eager to claim that they were the one who hit the Wendy bird, and they tell Peter what had happened. And I love how proud she is of her terribleness. Like,
Yeah.
she freely
She's like,
admits it.
she's unapologetic.
So Peter banishes her forever, but Wendy pleads on her behalf for some reason, even though she just tried to murder her. I guess Wendy is a forgiving soul.
Yeah.
So,
Wendy. Yeah. Just lets it go.
so Peter reduces her banishment to just a week.
The mercy that Peter shows.
So then they all split up to have separate adventures, with John and Michael wanting to see the Indians and Wendy wanting to see the mermaids. And this is where you get another iconic song with Following the Leader.
Following the leader. I mean, speaking of Looney Tunes, that scene is so weird, but funny. You know, all those animal encounters that they have that are just kind of all
Yeah, there's a lot of random
accidental
animals all over the island.
Yeah,
Rhinos, orangutans.
but a catchy song. Fun.
Yeah.
I think it's that's a fun sequence.
Yeah. And this ends with them finding footprints and John saying that they must plan a strategy. And I love how it was like they were playing into the stereotype of the Indians in insulting them, but then finding out that the stereotype is completely untrue, because he says, remember, the Indian is cunning but not intelligent, and they're immediately captured.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, John, I think it might be the other way around.
Yeah. And obviously with this scene, there's now a lot of cringy stereotypes at play here, but I like that the Indians aren't like vilified like you would find in a lot of other media of the time.
Yeah, it's super cringy. It earned the warning.
Yeah,
the cultural warning on Disney Plus, as it deserves.
Especially with the song "The Red Man Red."
So what makes the Red Man Red?
Yeah, that's probably the worst part of the movie.
Yeah, that's a hard part. I think that's a hard part to watch. You know, as a mature adult. Yeah, because as a kid I didn't understand it.
I don't think I thought anything of it at the time.
Yeah. But today and then just plus I think just with modern sensibilities it's not great. I hope they weren't trying to be mean. I think they were, again, playing
for
comedy at the expense though of Native American brothers and sisters.
I think like Walt Disney, a lot of people today want to call him a racist, but I don't think that he probably wasn't what you would call racially sensitive, but I don't think that anything that he did was with the intent of putting someone down.
That's
and
how I
a lot of
see
stuff he did because he thought he was going to be helping various peoples or cultures.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had that thought with the Indians. I don't know that he put much thought into the Indian scene actually, because it is mostly played for comedy.
And also I can't remember. I mean, I know that reflecting on the source material, I believe that, there are Indians in the book.
Yeah.
And I think there were definitely Indians in that Mary Martin play, that particular interpretation of the story.
There always have been. I know it's cut from the book, but I think most versions use them in some way.
Yeah, because Tiger Lily, right, is such a primary character.
Yeah, she's like one of the most iconic Peter Pan characters.
Yeah, but anyway, I think you said it right. It's cringy, a bummer. Although I do applaud the people at Disney, how they're keeping these scenes in, and they'll put on Disney Plus, and they'll put a warning.
Yeah,
but they're not cutting them out. Which, I mean, we'll never ever get to see Song of the South in a Disney sanctioned, still, I kind of wish that they would, but with some context.
I mean, they've now built in like the age gate thing, because they've got all those like TV MA Marvel shows from Netflix, which are behind an age gate, so they could do something similar with Song of the South if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I think I feel mostly the same as Rachel in that Song of the South is not that great of a movie. Not even talking about the racial stuff. It's like I was kind of bored with most of it.
it's not that great of a film. And I mean, the best part are,
the
animated.
animation. Yeah. Well, anyways, back with the Indians. One thing that I did really like in this scene was that they gave the teddy bear his own little stake with they tied him to an arrow.
The teddy bear. I like that too.
And this is where you get the reveal that this time, even though in the past this has all been a game, they're not playing this time because Tiger Lily is missing.
Tiger Lily has been kidnapped, yeah.
They think that the Lost Boys were behind it somehow.
Yeah.
So then back with Peter and Wendy, he's taken her to see the mermaids, who immediately try to murder her as well.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, like, these people. Are these,
the whole island has it out for her, apparently.
Yeah. Poor Wendy. It's like, get out while you can, girlfriend. And the mermaids are mean, too. I mean, they're murderous, but yeah.
It reminded me of like catty high school girls.
Yes.
All fawning over the same dumb jock.
It's like Mean Girls or Peter Pan.
Yeah. And again, Peter is not the greatest character here because he thinks that they're hilarious.
Right.
Although I will admit that "we were only trying to drown her" line is funny.
That's right.
It wouldn't be funny if it was real, but like in the
just
cartoon,
so passe, like, oh,
we were only trying to drown her. And at this point, Hook shows up and the mermaids flee in terror. This is where you see that their plan has been followed through. They have Tiger Lily.
Yeah.
They're taking her to Skull Rock to interrogate her.
They're going to Skull Rock. I'm going to bore you with a little bit more Disneyland history, Jonathan. Sorry, but so the Fantasyland area, originally, it had like a life-size Skull Rock and a pirate ship. And of course, there was the Peter Pan ride, but the pirate ship was a restaurant where you could it was sponsored by Chicken of the Sea. So you could get tuna fish sandwiches on this.
I remember hearing that Chicken of the Sea had some sort of promotional thing in the book, but I don't think I'd realized it was supposed to be Captain Hook's pirate ship.
And then just having that Skull Rock there was so cool. It was really well lit at night. I remember really loving it. It got removed when they did a big remodel of Fantasyland. And this new Fantasyland, I'd take it any day over, the one they used to have. But I do miss the Skull Rock. However, at Disneyland Paris, they put in a Skull Rock and a pirate ship. The pirate ship is more just kind of a play area, and you can actually walk through Skull Rock too. So no longer you can get a tuna fish sandwich, but but still, it's fun that it got put back, into a Disney park. But anyway, still, I love Skull Rock. I think that it just is just the foreboding design, and then when they go inside, this is I think a very exciting sequence coming up.
Yeah, really great location.
Yeah.
So Captain Hook is planning to leave Tiger Lily on a tiny rock and says that
speaking of drowning,
yes, he'll set her free if she tells him where they can find Peter Pan. And he asks Smee if he is not a man of his word, and Smee crosses his fingers and says, "Always, Captain."
That's great.
Of course, Tiger Lily refuses to tell him anything, and Peter tries to free her, first by pretending to be an evil spirit to scare them off, but then once he gets them separated, he pretends to be Captain Hook, calling out of the cave for Mr. Smee to return Tiger Lily to her people, and then you have a bunch of back and forth between them as he's trying to figure out who's real, because, of course, Captain Hook did not say this, and he tells him to put her back, and then eventually everything is revealed, which leads to this big sword fight and the crocodile showing up to try and eat Captain Hook. And this whole thing is basically a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yes, it is. Slapstick, but I love it. How Captain Hook keeps having these problems. I know it's just be this way maybe in the end, but this is one where the crocodile is like vertical and Captain Hook has his feet on either side of his mouth. He keeps doing the splits kind of thing.
That may have happened more than once, but yes.
Yeah, that's true. Seems like this is one of them.
The crocodile comes very close to eating him multiple times.
Well, I just picture the scene like Mr. Smee's trying to row him out and Captain Hook's standing up, and then because the tide is rising, and
Mm-hmm.
so Captain Hook slams against the entrance to the cove. Anyway, the whole thing, and just great kind of classic cartoon sound effects.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Looney Tunes.
Eventually, they are chased off just in time for Wendy to remind Peter that Tiger Lily is about to drown.
Yeah, I was like, oh, by the way.
And then he saves her just in time and completely forgets about Wendy,
Yeah,
leaving her behind. She's like trying to flap her arms.
she has to kind of flap her arms and fly off.
And then you get back to the pirate ship, and there's more Looney Tunes antics with Smee berating somebody for making noise. Meanwhile, he's pounding nails into a sign on the door because Captain Hook has a headache after the crocodile encounter, and he also accidentally hammers him in the head. And he then tries again in vain to convince him that they need to leave the island because apparently there's woman trouble a brewing. And it's no place for a respectable pirate. He tells him about Tinkerbell's banishment and her jealousy of Wendy. And of course, this gives him an idea. He declares that a jealous female can be tricked into anything. So their new plan is to find Tinkerbell and get her to tell where Peter Pan is hiding. And then, of course, probably the worst part of the movie, back at the Indian camp, Tiger Lily has been returned, everybody's been freed, and you get the song, What Made the Red Man Red?
Yeah, the song we were just talking about. Yeah, that's every stereotype.
Some of it, it's like, it's not even based on a stereotype. They just wanted to write some now cringy jokes.
Yeah, like, cringy, you're trying to be, punny, or I don't know what you'd call it, but yeah.
Like, I don't know that there's any lore that says the red man is red because he blushed.
Right.
It seems like they were trying to make up their own just so story.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever heard that anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's necessarily based on anything. It was other than they were just trying to make kind of a funny thing, a Native American expense. It's not great. Well, and then also the whole thing about Wendy, since she's a woman, she has to go get the firewood.
Oh, yeah. I also wonder, like, they tell her that she has to collect firewood because squaw no dance. But
yeah,
there are other women dancing. Tiger Lily's dancing. So why do they pick on her specifically?
So again, is it just more just like Wendy persecution?
Yes. It's like everybody hates Wendy in this movie.
Oh, poor Wendy.
I do remember, though, like I said, like I didn't think too much of any of this when I was a kid, but I remember being very confused by when people would call Indians red. Like, they're not red. Like in real life, I was always so confused by that. Like, why do they think that they're red?
Yeah.
I still don't really know why they call them red. It's a stereotype,
my friend.
But I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, not a good one.
But yeah, Wendy eventually gets sick of the treatment and leaves on her own. She's also just kind of appalled by everyone's behavior because nobody is behaving well. Her brothers are behaving badly, and she's just over it all.
And Peter Pan.
Yeah. And of course, while all this is happening, Tinkerbell is being captured. Captain Hook convinces her to help him get rid of Wendy. She makes him promise not to harm Peter, which is obviously a lie.
Yeah.
And then reveals that the secret entrance to the hideout is in Hangman's Tree. And of course, he's lied, so he grabs her, locks her in a lantern, and then they all set out, leaving her behind.
Yeah. That's a great scene. I love how Captain Hook plays the piano.
Yes.
With his hook. And I kind of feel like, how Entangled, how there's that one scene. Like that. I wonder if they took some inspiration from.
I bet so.
From that, but that just cracks me up. Great animation, and just it really works. And again, showing just how devious Captain Hook is, and I love how they put the ink on Tinkerbell's feet. That she trots around the map and shows. Finally, in a way, Tinkerbell kind of turns a corner, right?
Yes,
you see kind of the horror on her face when she realizes what she's done, and
I think that's one reason that I am more okay with her being so terrible at the beginning than I am with
Yeah,
Peter Pan, because she like has character growth at this point. I don't know that
she
Peter Pan
does.
ever gets over his
No,
narcissism.
Peter Pan is just he never changes. Although he's more, more forgiving. He takes some days off at Tinkerbell sentence, when she comes to save
So benevolent.
him. Exactly.
So after this, everybody starts arriving back home, and Wendy informs John and Michael that they're leaving in the morning. Of course, they don't like this idea, and Peter forbids them from leaving and marches out. And Michael seems to have forgotten about their mother, even though they've only been gone for like
Yeah, like
less than a day.
Yeah.
And all the Lost Boys can't remember theirs either. So Wendy sings them Your Mother and Mine.
Which I love that sequence. It's kind of like tenderhearted, and Catherine Beaumont has a lovely voice.
Yeah.
And I just thought that whole thing kind of, works as a transition point where now they just realize, yeah, we need to go home. At least, Wendy, John, and Michael. Although the Lost Boys are melancholy for a mother too. Right.
Well, at the end of this song, they decide to go with them. They ultimately do not leave with them, but they all want to at this point.
Yeah.
But while she's singing, the pirates are surrounding the tree. And by the end of the song, the pirates are also like in tears, thinking of their own mothers.
I know.
And the song has convinced them all to leave immediately, not even wait till morning. So they decide to leave now. And Peter is angry. He tells them they can leave, but once they're gone, they'll grow up and they can never return. And none of the Lost Boys seem to mind. They all head out and are immediately captured by the pirates. And Captain Hook leaves a present behind for Peter to find later.
Yeah. A little present that's going to explode.
Yes. And then they're taken to the pirate ship, and all of the children are offered, via song, the chance to join Captain Hook's crew.
Which is another great. I love that song.
Yeah.
And it has choreography for dancing. The pirates are.
And then this offer is barely an offer because the only alternative is to walk the plank.
Yeah. It's like you sign or you walk the plank. So your choice.
And all the boys seem really eager to join, but Wendy tells them off and refuses, saying that Peter Pan will save them. But Captain Hook laughs at this and reveals that the present they left behind was actually a time bomb set to go off at 6 o'clock, which is in 18 seconds. And Tinkerbell freaks out at this, knocks over her lantern, smashes her way out, and speeds out the window to warn Peter. She gets there just in time to rip it out of his hands, but not fast enough to save the home, and everything blows up. He survives, though, and he's combing through the rubble trying to find Tinkerbell, telling her that she means more to him than anything else in the world, which is like the most human thing that he's ever done, the least narcissistic.
It's the only really nice, I guess, kind of how he helps a little at the end of the film is kind of nice too. But this really is the only nice gesture that he offers.
Yeah, kind of. He does find her before her light goes out, and the light going out would mean that she was dead.
Yeah. And that really, I think, is a real homage to the play, too.
Yeah, because I've never seen the play, but I've read about the play. Isn't there a thing where like they have an audience response thing?
Yes.
Where they have to, what do they do?
Have to
clap their hands and say,
clap their hands. Or something like that, to make sure that the Tinkerbell's light doesn't go out.
Yeah. But yeah, she survives, and they fly back just in time to rescue Wendy, who was the first one made to walk the plank. And then the pirates all think that the ship is cursed since there's no splash. And they think that it's a ghost when Peter appears because they saw the explosion and they think he's dead.
Yeah.
And then you get another basically Looney Tunes cartoon as they battle the pirates.
Oh, that whole pirate battle. Again, that was another childhood favorite, just because so much action and great humor. I love how, Michael puts the cannonball in the teddy
I was
bear.
just going to say, my favorite part is Michael loading his teddy bear with a cannonball.
Isn't that great?
And of course, the crocodile shows up as well, and he's just hanging out below waiting for a snack to fall in. Eventually, though, Peter is able to basically defeat Captain Hook. He ties him up in the pirate flag, forces him to admit that he's a codfish. And all the Lost Boys start chanting, "Hook is a codfish, Hook is a codfish," while the crocodile is dancing along to the chant. That was probably my favorite crocodile scene, his little
I
dance.
agree. He did a little dance, and isn't he kind of like has his hands together, like with his fingers, like kind of
The
very
crocodile's
villainous.
great. Yes.
I don't know what you call that gesture, but
Yeah.
tapping his fingers together.
And Peter declares victory, but it was premature because Hook escapes and tries to stab him in the back, but he falls overboard, much to the delight of the crocodile.
Yeah.
And you get more Looney Tunes antics as the crocodile tries to eat him.
Yeah. That's such a great, and they just go off into the sunset, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, my
Smee.
favorite bit of this whole thing is when Hook is launched out of his mouth, and it's just the animation and the sound design as he's skipping across the water away.
And the sound effects they used, right?
Yeah, it was great.
As he's whizzing across the water, it's almost like a speedboat or something.
Yeah, he's like speed.
Yeah, that's really fun. And so I also like it too that nobody died other than, I guess the accordion player dies.
Yes.
But Smee, Captain Hook and Smee are still left to, fight out with the alligator. I mean, excuse me, with the crocodile, with the croc.
Yeah. So after this, Peter takes over the ship. He declares himself Captain Pan. And he tells Wendy that they're setting sail for London.
Yeah, so I thought that was that was the other one I thought was a pretty nice gesture that Peter was willing to take them home.
Yeah. I guess he does have a little bit of a character arc here as he's resigned himself that they're leaving and decides to help them get home.
And this scene is just one I just love this too. I mean, I love pretty much everything about this movie, but how the pixie dust kind of turns the boat to gold.
Yeah.
And the music's great because it's just got that wonderful orchestration. Just I think a pretty magical scene.
Mm-hmm. So back in London, we hear Mary telling George that she's glad he changed his mind about Wendy, and he dismisses it saying, "Oh, I never mean these things."
George is chilled out. They had a good party.
And they get upstairs and find Wendy sleeping at the nursery's open window, and she wakes up and tries to tell them what happened, and she points out the window to I think it's supposed to be Peter's ship, but it's made of clouds, so I'm not again, I don't really know what the lore is here.
And again, just as we were talking about it the first, my interpretation of it is just, again, it's just one of those things. Did it really happen, or was it just a dream?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of lead tomorrow was just a dream, but still, that whole scene, and again with Mr. Darling's response to it, it just makes me feel like that the importance of always, in a way, being childlike, even though you're an adult living in the adult world,
mm-hmm.
but keeping that sense of wonder and keeping your imagination
mm-hmm.
going is a happy thing, even if you're Mr. Darling.
Yeah. This is where he says he has the strangest feeling he's seen that ship before when he was very young, and that's where the movie ends. As they're
as Wendy and her parents are looking out of that window into the sky,
mm-hmm.
And then the "You Can Fly" reprise happens again with that great little chorus that they used earlier in the movie. I just saying "You Can Fly." Or singing, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
You can fly.
So that's Peter Pan. It was different than I expected. Like I said, I had not seen it since I was a little kid, so a lot of it was fresh for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I loved it as much as I love a lot of other old Disney movies, but there was a lot about it that I did like, even if I wasn't too crazy about a lot of the characters. There's still a lot of stuff in this movie that is iconic and entertaining and hilarious, so it's still definitely worth watching, even if it's not perfect.
And I wonder too if I really hadn't enjoyed the story so much as a child, how I'd view it now. Because
Hmm.
so I really appreciate hearing your viewpoint about that because I wonder if would probably feel the same.
It's one of those things where it's different for people who grew up with the story because
Hmm.
they have nostalgia clouding their vision, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's pure nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a lot in here that, I mean, the nostalgia is warranted. The music is great, the animation is great, the stories about how the movie was made is really great. Certain scenes and character motivations may not be the greatest, but other than that, it's still, as a movie, it's still entertaining and worth watching,
Yeah.
even just for the historical value. That's how I view a lot of these. It's just it's interesting from a historical perspective just to see the history of Disney and what they did throughout the years.
And I'll be anxious to talk with you about it when you get to ride the ride at Disney Park. see what you think.
Yeah, that will be interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the rides. I know like the names of rides, but
Hmm.
I don't know too much about them. It'll be interesting to see
Yes.
what what they're like and what Jenna thinks is worth riding. I feel like I've heard that this one is one, oh, I can't remember. Is this one where there's like a lot of people that
It
wait
is
in line for this
always
one?
it's hugely it's always has a really long line. And
Okay.
part of the problem is because it's a slow, you're getting into this little pirate vehicle that only holds like two or three people.
Mm,
And it's just kind of slow to get on, and then it's really short. So yeah, it's one of those where unless it's a real sentimental favorite, I think some people don't want to wait in the line. I typically will wait in the line for Peter Pan because it's one of my favorite rides there. But other people I've talked to think it's overrated or not worth it.
mm.
And again, I just wonder what their feeling is about the movie, and if it's if it's sentimental to them, then probably it's not. If they don't want to, if they're kind of thinking it's me.
Okay, well, I think that will be the end of this episode, but we will be back next week to talk about Return to Neverland, which I have a
Yes.
feeling will not hold the same nostalgia value for you. Until then, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they want more from you?
Yes. So on Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Okay, we will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.